'cause you know me through and through. When you are around, I see the stars come out for you. If we gonna set this fire, we gonna do it right, yeah. We keep it burning higher. We're gonna light this whole place up. And you know, when I'm with you, I am alive, alive. You make me feel you are the night, the night. You're giving me hope, and it's everything I need. I don't wanna go, I don't ever wanna sleep. If we gonna set this fire, we gonna do it right, yeah. We keep it burning higher. We're gonna light this whole place up. And you know, when I'm with you, I am alive, alive. You make me feel you are the night, the night. You pull me in, you make me shine, shine. You make me feel you are the night, the night.
Good morning, whatever it is, wherever you are. We've got a little problem. The other day, yesterday, that's one TikToker, I tried to build a new server. Been trying to move stuff over to this computer. And the git tag overwrite problem seems to have gotten worse, which confuses me a lot because I would swear I had already built this here. I think there was a patch. Of course, that would be a live server patch. Build server. So if I run this, okay, we get rejected, but we explicitly overwrite in a separate command. So we fetch, we get to there, and I modified the actual the fetch script to say, because apparently it's failing. If it can't overwrite the tags, it actually returns a fail error code. And I got that to return true. And then there was something else that was going wrong. Or at least it was going wrong last night. Oh, okay. Well, now it builds. Maybe it was package server? Nope. And today it works. I don't understand. Anyway. Yesterday, I had to add this or true because it was like failing as soon as it got to get fetch tags. Or rather, because it was not able to overwrite the tag, it returned a fail code and stopped the script. Okay, so that got updated with different stuff. That one didn't need it. Oh, this is the Windows client doing a similar thing, which was the problem for some reason. Now, I think I was able to upload these all right. I actually don't remember if I updated the forum topic. But No, actually, see, I went and did this. But you actually have to run it in the Linux shell because otherwise MinGW messes up the prompts on the command line, the paths on the command line, and you don't actually get something Docker can use. Not today, it just works. Alright, we're not dealing with Git anymore. What are we dealing with? See, I think that worked. I think that worked. Oh, I wanted to possibly see about patching this in the regular code as well. Maybe we're actually getting back to hierarchy because I started working on that, even though I would kind of like to be done modding at some point. So that'll be a quick fix. And then we've been trying to work out the layout issues of the hierarchy stuff. Now you see this pathing fix would actually almost be a separate patch, because that's... Would you ever want to not do it that way? I wouldn't. Okay, I have not... Oh, this is it. CD... Game source... Living life. Oh... Where is it? Okay, so you're one life. You're the server. Okay, you're the compiler. Oh, actually, no, there's a different patch. We need to SDG series, which gets quite large. STG show, this is actually interaction refactoring. Oh, I actually deleted something from it, didn't I? Can we look at... Move near to. We like removed a case. And move near to is going to look a lot like some other piece of code. Let's move near to. Oh, I ended up calling this some... Oh, no, actually this would fix it in my client. Because I actually replaced that bit of code with move near to, I believe. Wait, was this a Jason comment or a me comment? Oh, maybe I commented it out because it was experimental. The tile itself, if target is permanent and not blocking and hand is empty. Same target and yourself multiple times, so having yourself as close as... Oh. So this is the berry bush patch, basically. So in the mouse-based environment, it's to cut down mouse travel between you and a berry bush. Picking berries from behind the bush. So technically this, okay, this already affects the main line, and I think I'm sold. STG refresh -P. Oh, okay. It takes partial commands apparently. It's custom git ignore. It might be applied patches. So that is, we kind of got that for free. Okay, tuning. I keep forgetting to write down concrete feedback. I think that's super bothering me. Okay, that works. Oh. Is this running even when we have no search? Okay, STG series. This is a object search thing. We need a test environment. I remember there being so many flat rocks here before. Maybe the jackpots moved around. All right. We want to look at find in map. A find in map gets called. Okay, this one gets called on hits greater than 0. Okay, if it's null, set new craving. Okay, that shouldn't happen too often. This is in step. So I think this is going to be on map updates. Step again. Map change. Step again. Player update for self. Do we have any checks here that there is actually a thing to search for? Yeah, we're going to look at the entire map, even if there's nothing to search for. Now, I added the auto search thing, and I think that probably needs to be optional. Especially given that sort of background overhead. Oh, that's what I want to do. That's what's bugging me, actually. Okay, what can we do performance-wise? And this might be somewhat useful. So I probably should have an option for auto search. So the first step is just if there's nothing to search for, is it dot size? You're probably the same kind of object. Now I'm going to come in as a Eve player that already has a craving, so it doesn't actually directly help that. So I would need to do some kind of print. So that's if we found it. Yep, that was a little bit too much. Stay? No, because that line just wrapped around. And I almost need to have the toggle option in here too to be able to test it at all. Well, or get a player as a baby. Okay, so we expect you to be searching for something. Oh? Well... Okay. Oh no, seeking one. Okay, so it's actually... This isn't like an every frame thing. But there are definitely certain times when... So this almost comes down to the performance. So this isn't in every frame. Now, when you're running around a lot, it is in every map chunk. Push back in food ID. So this is the thing where maybe you don't want that. Because right now, object search is like, well, if you don't do a search, it doesn't affect you. That means it does affect you. Oh, these are all M's. A lot of the setting stuff is elsewhere. Get in setting. Okay, so here's like a bunch of the custom things I've done. Which gets off into some larger ones. Filter matches product would kind of fit that. Finding map, and that's it. All right, so to check that that compiles, we can just do that. And you crave wild garlic, which is not a great or a convenient thing to be testing. But I guess once I find it, okay, well that's just not working then. Okay, so we never did. Is it working normally? Maybe I didn't get it properly hooked into the ordinary, like, resumption path. So is this a case where if I clear... Oh. Let me guess. That thing was not edible. Okay. I don't know that I want to do precursors on searches. That could be a... For cravings... Well... I'd have to, like, know that it's a craving and, like, do becomes food on everything in the map. Okay, and then we can do in this thing... No, it's sprites, not settings. That should work. Oh, and that actually is 0 right now. Actually, we could... I might need to get a baby to test the... Well, this will actually result in there being no default cravings, so we'll be seeking nothing. And we do kind of want the alt... Oh, I never pinned it. That was weird. All right, and I have no search term up. And this should go back to 1 and be on. Oh, it didn't pin. Okay, and we've got our search. Oh, I guess I already removed the print. Okay, cool. All right, we are at object search. Oh. I need to move you down to game source settings. I need to add that. I think we're clear to add game source. All right, so that's a simple little thing. Now the problem with the hitching is that I don't know if that's like a server thing. And I don't even know if I could reproduce it here. Let's go to over here for a moment. The change log. Default. And readme. I never actually added this to this feature. Default, search for craving. And we've updated all of the patches to the current source. All right. I don't recall how often the hitching was occurring when I was playing normally. Or if it had to do, if I had to be moving things around. I guess I would notice it sometimes with actions and sometimes with maybe just moving around. So it might be that all I can do here is try to set up instrumentation such that I can like measure frames and then either report all of the frame times. No rocks around. Which might be a bit much, or report them now, see what that looks like, and then figure out a threshold to put a marker in the log file so that as it happens playing the game, I can look what nearby messages were and try to get a sense of what was going on. I'm not seeing anything off right now. So it's not so regular that you can actually find it in this setting. Now, I guess the other thing was that I was actually playing that full screen. Can I do that soft settings? I'm going to go tweak the files. It's a restart. Okay, so that's just the soft cursor. This is Arctic. All the muddy iron veins. Surprisingly few wolves. So also not really seeing anything so far here. It's like it's not all the time, but it's sometimes. Actually, I'm not actually doing this right now. Okay, more precursor garlic. Alright, so how would we measure this? It would be like step to step or frame to frame. Do we have anything that currently measures, I mean, we've got frame rate, adjust all frame counts. This was a thing that was not called. Old frame rate factor, map animation frame count. This was a thing to try and rescale it dynamically that never got used. Okay, and this involves a frame rate factor. Pretend that frame rate is constant. Where are you? Update move speed. Probably doesn't get called very often. Handle anim sound. Do we ever measure frame rate stuff? Something with double click sort of cares about frames. Yeah, it was just counting in frames. That's not doing the count. Let's click gap. Okay, so I was doing two measures here. Was this for me? Maybe it was. Yeah, because for some of the letters that do certain things. So this is in step. Is any signal set? All right, so we're not doing any like major frame stuff at the top. Show FPS. Time measures. I don't actually know if this matters. Oh, do I also have to... Is this just worked now? Okay. It's just the dynamic change that's a little bit messed up. And man, I had to do something with that in this new library, and I forget what it was now. Or with the new compiler setup. Oh no, that was actually the, stack bug. Oh dear. Now you see, that might be a bit too distracting to play with all the time. Sprite draw, unique draw, pixels drawn. I'm not sure what the FPS graph is for. I guess that's just 60 frames per second, and it's just constant. So this is like all the kind of stuff we need. We need to turn this on a little bit when I'm playing normally, and just stream can deal with it. Now, I don't know. I guess one thing I don't know is, like, is the game frozen when that happens? Or is it just network messages? But it seems like it's not. It should keep animating. Like you've disconnected from the server, and like you just go into the fuzzy white zone. There is not actually anything major. Desert. I didn't cross desert before. I'm very lost. There's very high variation in the number of pixels drawn. That's interesting. I mean, maybe that's just... Yeah, like, we get into this area of dense trees, and it goes up. So there's lots of overdraw there. Huh. Now, I don't know how he's measuring that. It might not actually reflect certain operations. Oh, bunch of trees again. So that would be an interesting thing to time measures. So if show FPS, update start time. Time measures of what? Oh, time measures 0, plus equal, plus equal. Update start time, message process start time. I think that's total loop. But that is not... It's like those are all like single functions. They're not actually going to be everything. And is that because it's an over a 30-second window? Or a 30-frame window? As in draw. Time measures to draw equals time measures. Add to graph equals 0. So this must be frames in batch. Okay, so yes, it's just 30 frames. So we could grab the numbers while it's doing this. This is probably only going to be in show FPS though, isn't it? Yeah. So we can't actually use that unless we're in show FPS mode. But it does show us how to measure things. What are we measuring? We've got draw start time. So this is going to be in draw. We've got, this is process start time. This is a step in, a part of step, update start time. I don't know that any of these are going to be actual frame to frame, which would cover if there was like something happening in the background engine. So we would want, what we'd really want to do is game get current time, say every step. And just put out an alert if it's, anyway, wow, we would expect. Oh, he's also doing 30 frame averages, so he's not going to notice, well, abhorrent frames are not going to be as obvious. Yes, I don't know if this is any signal set return. Also, I needed a place to put this. What do we call this? Okay, that goes where we expect. Measures. Frame batch measure start time. Frames in batch. Measure time num categories. Messages, updates, drawing. Time measure graph colors. Time measure to draw. Time measure record. Oh yeah, I want to investigate how this stuff worked. End counting sprite pixels drawn. Yeah, these are only sprite pixels. And it excludes this. So that's only sprite pixels. There's the overlay. All that blend stuff. And it doesn't account for the extra load of doing that transparently. This might be another overlay sprite. Okay, so I'm actually curious now. I mean, I could even get a whole other pixel count, but I have to do all the display stuff for it. Oh, that's only like start counting. Oh. Wait, it starts again. Okay, so he stopped for a bit and then he started for a bit. Okay, so 87, 54, and sprites drawn. Okay, this is doing floors. But then we skipped it for the overlay. And maybe he just thought that would be kind of noise in the graph. But that's not going to be a lot of pixels. Oh, maybe specifically because so much of that is going to be off screen that it would throw the numbers? Because they're large? That's a lot of pixels. That's like a lot of pixels. There's probably a block comment somewhere in here, isn't there? There's our live object. Okay, so that's like hint arrow stuff. Oh, is this like the... I don't know if that's the ground overlay or like the highlight a square thing. Okay, it has all the visual confusion we expected. Greatly reduced the pixels. It's still, yeah, I guess 200, 400 was, we were seeing some of those before. But that is, and probably because it's all one operation, it is more efficient. The drawing milliseconds per frame, that has to involve some frame locking. Because otherwise you'd see much more variation depending on the pixels and drawing. Used FFmpeg and Node. I have not. Is it some sort of direct library integration, or is it calling out to the program? I've heard of, well, I've heard of FFmpeg. I know I've heard the name GStreamer, but I've forgotten what it was. Ah, okay. Actually, one thing I want to check. I'm not sure if this is also doing the call out to the program. Okay. Well, there's those things. Which, well, okay, this is all the trees. Yeah, maybe he excluded that because the pixel measure was kind of inaccurate because of how much it was off screen. I would need to get something that more accurately represents the amount of time spent drawing each frame in order to judge if that's actually having an effect or not. The way you could really tell about the background textures, I found the Arctic. Because that's just plain white. Okay, well, I'm definitely going to new territory here. Oh, man, I passed through that huge Arctic early on, and then I got lost. More jungle. More jungle. Eh. I think the movement collision only works when there's an item there. They can still pass over you if there's not an item. Okay, that is looking pure white. So yes, that is the texture. I think maybe there's two options. Maybe there are operations there. Maybe there's not. So that is interesting. I'm kind of wondering if that would be a factor in people who are struggling with performance. Although it does vary with the sprites. I don't know. Actually, well, this might be putting off to the GPU. Let's see. So that is counting. Can I get my own little timer? Time measure. So he's using double for that. Start counting sprite pixels drawn. I guess what I'm curious right now is this overlay specifically. That's going to get a little extra stuff. What was it, overlay time? Game get current time. There might be a little bit of a hit from this, but it's going to be outside of our measurement. just in time to die. What units is that in? And did I remember to initialize it? Oops. Yeah, it's 0. Oh, what I needed to do was game get current time. But what we're seeing is a what unit are you in? Is that seconds? Is that milliseconds? Game get current time, frame batch measure start time, frames in batch divided by delta, and that's frames per second, so that's probably seconds. And what we're seeing is a pretty small amount. I mean, that would be milliseconds. So that's not such a small amount. No, that's still... I just did plus equal. I just need to do a subtraction now. Minus equal? No, it equals game current time minus. So really the delta should almost be a different thing. You have the start time and then you get the delta. Okay, so we've got some a measurement precision issue here. I find this very weird though. Oh, what I was seeing was the overall time of the frame. It looks like it is 1 millisecond issue, and it's down to whether a millisecond transpires during that sample. So we really would need to measure this over the course of, like 30 frames or whatever. And what we might see is like 5 milliseconds out of 30 frames to be divided by 30. So that's actually not... Well, it's not a lot of direct time. But I would not be surprised if this was the sort of thing where you asynchronously send it to the GPU and then possibly it... if there's a large job, it ends up deferring other work. That was definitely running this pixel count, but I don't know if that matters. Or how you would... I mean, you'd have to probably get deeper down to the engine to measure, time to completion. What I need to find out, where are we getting the time per frame? Start counting, running pixel count. Frames in batch. Frame batch measure start time. So the time per frame is just the average over that entire period. And that is including everything, including sort of outside events. It's not going to get individual large frames. So things that might be interesting are just straight up draw. And there's a lot of subfunctions. Oh, well, draw start time. If it's show FPS, oh. That's plus equals that, but we've got the information. And in fact, this is already doing subtraction again, so. Oh, but it doesn't even set draw start time unless you're in show FPS. And this is going to hit that millisecond precision thing again, probably. That's saying the entire frame took 16 milliseconds, and I don't entirely believe that we actually needed all that time to draw it. Unless something is like, there's a wait for frame command. Where's show FPS? Is this all show net, show ping? Is this all at the end? No, it's not necessarily the end. Here's all the UI stuff. Well, let's counting sprites, pixels drawn. What if we just took all this stuff out? Actually, I kind of want to disinclude that as well. And that is just the syntax highlighter not being able to keep up, I think. Okay, defined but not used I get. What is it? What is the actual compiler error? Not declared in this scope. So we ended up grabbing some definitions within the space of this. Your draw. Your draw. You're something different. Oh, well, you're an if statement. That doesn't help. No, that should be fine. So apparently I have to be a little bit more targeted about this. Draw floors on top of... So you're not counting biome either. And he probably counts on a bunch of these things in like show FPS and whatnot. Can we just do... Oh, no, actually the issue is probably that there's another... The issue may be... I'm not in draw anymore. If there are other comments intervening, so you can't just do that. What's our status right now? We've got our frame draw time. Show FPS, show FPS, show FPS. Can we just not do anything? I think there might be some intermediate screens, like you might need the login screen and stuff. We need our live object. That probably skips all the floor rendering stuff. I think someone has to do more targeted cutouts. So there's the whole screen fill. And this is like actually doing the connection message stuff, which is more than I would have expected here. Figuring out all the grid. No, don't want that. And of course he uses this all over the place too. Okay, did I do if false maybe? If false? Okay. Out of conformance. So that's a big chunk. Draw floors. Then we've got the lighten. That might be a bunch of stuff. We can just see if it has any effect. Yeah, it's still 16, so that has to be bound by the frame rate. I just don't know where it's being bound by the frame rate, because it's like the draw function. Unless, because we're FPS locked, like, it just kind of has to wait for the... Wait to start drawing. And like the engine has to kind of sit around and wait before it allows you to actually put down a sprite. Uh, our live object. It's watching. This is highlight stuff. Which, I mean, shouldn't have to be active for not using it. That's a different highlight. Long path. I mean, we shouldn't even have the path on. Skip these that are off screen. I wonder if that's nice to be fixed. Only drawn objects get flagged. Moving objects. You're doing a draw map cell. Highlighted our placements, which doesn't really matter that much. I mean, mouse over spots also not going to be a big contributor. Hint arrow, hint arrow. Name labels, shouldn't be any on right now. Speakers, there shouldn't have anybody speaking. Location speech. And then debug overlay. So that should get rid of almost everything, I think. So what step of it is taking 16 milliseconds? Yeah, 0 draws. There's 199 sprites probably all in this stuff. So I would say it's definitely, that 16 milliseconds is definitely not drawing the screen. But it's like it's from top of draw. Draw start time. So this is like the bottom of draw, the top of draw, how is that 16 milliseconds? I need to do some like checkpoints in the middle to try and figure out if it's like the first operation, it's the last operation. I guess some of the UI was still there. Actually, how does VSync show up? That might be an engine thing though. Settings page. Get counting on VSync. Okay, that's an engine thing. That's probably just a setting. So that would be into minor gems. It's probably more the implementation. Okay, it's just counting on vsync. Settings manager. Use frame. Okay, so it uses frame sleep to do it if we're not doing that. Save frame rate setting. Oh, so this is like, it's happening in the background. Are we counting on it or not? I thought it was a static variable, but... Huh. So maybe this has something to do with the draw method? Sprite draw, sprite draw. Draw scene. So does this not actually have the pages? It's scenes. No, it's the page. So like, living life page is a game page. Okay, gamepage.cpp. Waiting sprites. Keep drawing subcomponents. Base draw. Draw under components. Maybe this only gets used in the call down to it kind of thing. Draw, interview center, interview size. Okay, so you've got frame rate factor. Okay, you're just using it for speed, for speed, for speed. So you do base draw and then pass that stuff down. Now where does base draw come in? Current game page. Okay, so that's draw frame no update. Draw frame no update. Implementing it. Page component base draw. It's only in VOG modes. That shouldn't affect normal use. That's component stiff. Okay, so it looks like our baseline here is draw frame, no updates. There's editor and there's game. Okay, so you're just a local function. Let's look at draw frame after all updates. Okay, game.h, the calls init frame drawer. Ah. So your framework is draw scene, which is doing a lot. Mprint frame rate. This is once again batch based. So you're also measuring FPS. This is specifically for the whole measuring step. One missing showing frame drawer knitted. Get video info. Some more setup stuff. Demo mode done or was never enabled. Carry on with game. Draw frame. Letterbox. Screenshot. Frame number. Okay, game STL. GL translator. Screen handler. Fire to all handlers. Callback display. There's a GL clear. Oh, maybe glut swap buffers, but that wouldn't make my draw function take. Well, unless like you call this and then that has to happen. Before that has to complete before actual drawing can happen. So maybe it's just the first thing takes that much time. So we've got draw start time. There is a screen clear. Well, this is still waiting birth. I don't... But then I just, like, skipped all this stuff. Well, I guess we just start putting some time checks in here. And try to figure out where it's going. Oh, okay, so that would be the initial ones before we get turned FPS on. Okay, so nothing has happened at this point. Actually, up to the point we actually start doing show FPS, that might be the first things we draw. Like, actually draw. So I guess resetting this and then putting that in, let you see if it was like the first thing. Okay, yeah, still 0 up to this point. What is your first sprite? Draw fixed shadow. Because we know at the end of all this process, we've got 16 milliseconds. One, two. Yeah. So all of the time we're seeing in the frame is waiting for VSync. Now, counting on VSync isn't, I don't think, actually does anything to the engine that I could find. So I don't know that I can turn that off. Okay, so that is not a setting here. But it's going to sleep to try and maintain it. That won't be visible. That means it won't be visible during the actual draw function. But we probably actually do have VSync going on. Yeah. So well, I guess we could still measure if a frame was like more than 17 milliseconds. And then we can like look at the log to see if there was any particular messages that had happened at that time. So that draw start only happens if you're doing show FPS. Last possible thing. Now I use the same. I just moved that out, right? You've been sitting here in the cold. All right, did we actually get any hits here? Exactly. So we hit. All right, this is just like floating point measuring. Let's make this official. So that's just, sometimes it's 16, sometimes it's 17. I could almost make it a little bit more. Yeah, so well, actually, I guess that first sprite time, and we could even throw in a little, like, dummy draw, you know, like 1 pixel up in a corner before it's overwritten. Because that would actually tell you, like, how much extra time you were just sitting around and waiting. Oh, well, that was a bad one, all right. Now, that might have been where we were exiting. We've got a heat update. Not sure what FX is. We're getting lots of frame rate. Why does it print out frame rate? Is that the engine? Or is it a translated string? Did I close? No. Oh, that's game STL. So this is just always running. Mprint frame rate. True. Huh. Well, that's every batch. And it could actually be that it's the printing out to the log here that's doing it. I've never even noticed those in there before. So that was certainly a bad frame. I still know that it felt like, I almost feel like a second when it really hitches. That's still not super bad. Oh, and we wanted to see if we could measure our slack time. No, I guess they're all dead, if anything. Set view center position. We're not still waiting birth. Last screen view center, view width. And we want to grab all our stuff from the bottom. And actually if I then forced that, then you could measure the rest of the drawing. Right, that pass it. So this is like sync time. And to start off with, maybe we'll keep this. I just want to see this every time. And maybe we get another timer going to look at the rest of it. Now, this is a behavior I first started noticing with this computer, so maybe it's always going to be in that sync window. Okay. So I guess it has to be an actual sprite. If it's a little draw, it's like, we can just cue that. Okay. What's going to be our first draw sprite? Yeah, I could believe it's biomes. I guess there's also draw objects to be concerned about, but... Ground sprite, ground sprite. Ah, jeez. Now you see there might be multiple cases here. Because he does all the corners and things. And once again, that is not counted in pixels drawn. I guess he didn't consider that something he could control. All right, drop that. I almost want to pull the print out of this and maybe just report it later. Biome, second time for overlay shading on my culvert lines. Well, we're assuming we're going to draw something there. And then there's floors, but we're assuming this is going to be our first sprite draw. So we are going to need actually, yeah, but you actually become, you're just declared. Maybe there's actually something you could do like in Minor Gems that would be able to capture this. Oh, and hey, how about we clear our flag? Wrong way. And then that is our sync time. I guess I could, but you know, this is actually silly. Wherever we were doing our other thing. We just grab that. We draw a sprite. We have to pick a sprite. Square tiles. And floor sprite. Self fill. What's the hint arrow? Hint arrow sprite. It's like a totally wasted draw, but what are you, a double pair? Yeah. Oh, I could just use last view center. Okay, another person. Okay, 0.15, 0.14. Which, since it's 16, means that this computer is handily doing this in 1 to 2 milliseconds. Is that going to be a useful thing to leave on? Well, if I reset my start time, we could then measure what the actual drawing seemed to be taking. In fact, I could even move this above the other stuff. So I was using that. I was using that. This is actually going to make it. Doing it here is actually going to show up in some other weird situations. And we could reset that, and that might actually change our FPS thing to be more accurate. Or more useful, anyway. Oh, it did not show up there. Yeah, so we're limited in our precision. And if we go into some like dense trees and stuff, maybe we'll see a little bit more going on. Or if we go into a big city, you have all the floor layers and stuff. So I mean, when that actually goes over 16, it's still useful because that tells you when you've completely missed your frame budget. But that will show up here. Of course, this would still kind of show up there. It's the swamp trees that really get it going on. There's a swamp over here. I don't know if it gets very dense. So many pixels. Well, that's what 2 million pixels or whatever. Oh yeah, my little test track. It's going to be a little bit of floor layer. Still not worse than the trees. Well, there's 4 million pixels. This computer is still fine. Oh, and now that we have actual drawing time, we can do more interesting experiments with some of this stuff. Underlying ground biomes. Once for biomes. Ground sprites. Overlay evenly. This is the main one I was been curious about. Actually, on this computer, not a big difference. Then again, I have not taken an all scientific measure of this. It's just, yeah, it's around 2. It's not a huge difference. But maybe this was like a 2.4 before? You'd almost have to have a hotkey to toggle it on and off so you could really just... Okay, in this exact situation, what's the difference? Yeah, in this exact screen, it's not, actually, amazingly enough, not a difference. But of course, I'm not struggling with it to begin with. So I might leave that in there as a testing tweak so I can maybe look at this a few times while playing in more realistic environments. Get a sense of how badly we're getting stretched. I don't know. Is there like an SDL command to just vsync? SDL2. Fully done by the GPU. Get swap interval. Immediate updates. Update synchronize the vertical interface. Adaptive vsync. You can find out about it. I guess what I might just need is SDL1 docs. One point two. Is that the wiki? And you see, this says 2.0. And this is just front page. So that's the download for it. STL 1.215 reference. Video. Okay, so it might be a direct call. Get video service, get video info. Okay, yeah, this is more static information. So buffers. STL OpenGL attribute. Red size, depth size, yeah, static information again. General, window management. No. Yeah, I don't see anything that's obviously going to give me feedback about, or like explicitly wait for vsync before proceeding. So dummy draw is kind of the best we got right now. So I'm going to consider that part of the debugging patch. Right now, what are we doing? We are printing out a whole lot of sync times. I'm not sure I ever need to do this, actually. I guess it would once again be interesting if sync was what took an exceptional amount of time. So restarting draw start time is what allows that to show that time at that place. Should I also restart my frame start time? Because that would give us the time for anything we drew. We'd have sync for anything super large. So that would tell us if it was a sync problem or a draw problem. Okay, so we used frame start time. Okay, that got by our compiler check. All right, I had put that into the patch previously. So I can look at my log later for those tags and see if the issue is even drawing. I don't currently have any measurement for other frame-to-frame issues is the problem there. So we would actually want something that was like a static variable that we kind of cycled, just what's our frame-to-frame time? Because there was something else in the system that had not even called draw. And then we would have to trace down what it was. So that first one is just going to be a little off, so fine. And that's probably fine. So what do we want to do? We want to shoot. What do I call it? There's so many lasts. Last draw time. And that should still be under 16 because they're basically waiting on VSync. And then we want to say that last draw time equals game get current time. Okay. Okay, there was some other cycle thing that was missing in my completion. It's like, oh, I don't think I've seen this variable very often. So far away from everything. I guess I could just vlog in more food up there. Where's my pie collection? So that was cycle. Okay, so 118, 121. Oh, so there was a long sync. Which could have been other stuff happening in like step or something. Yeah, because we're not actually measuring right now. We're not actually measuring that. We're measuring this essentially, right? No, because it's frame start. So that was an actual VSync that took a while. Interesting, because it's the same video card, but maybe not the same driver. Maybe I just need a driver update or down date. Well, we'll try this once. I could see if there's an updated driver since I set this up. Maybe that's it. All right, so that's what I run with today. And maybe poke at FPS every once in a while. Try and get a sense of what it is in like more realistic situations, or especially when I've noticed that we've had a problem. And I'll just have to review the log file at the end of the day to see if there's any commonalities in like recent messages or anything. But I don't really want to get into any other major tasks. I don't think I had any other little things. Okay, yeah, we did that. We fixed that. So yeah, that's it for the morning. I will be back this afternoon. We'll try some of this out and see if the day gives us anything useful. Because it is kind of annoying. Let me see if there's anything I can recommend for where to go next. Not a whole lot of coding. I probably need to get out and be scouting for that sometime. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised if Aaron's going to be on soon, but not quite yet. Because I can get him when I go a little bit later, but today it just kind of happened to wrap up here. Well, There's that first Songs of Eon is messing with a bunch of procedural generation stuff, which I always find fascinating. Looks like some sort of like heavily simulated like settlers civilization game. If you're looking for someplace cool to hang out, that's someplace cool to hang out. Thanks for hanging out with me. Goodbye and until next time.